Good morning everyone, and welcome to this memorial and celebration for the life and times of Shirley Danton. My name's Helen, and as the celebrant along with Mary and her team at Sunshine Funeral Home, I'll be guiding you through the service for today. In respect of this important occasion, may I ask you now to check your electronic devices and make sure they are turned off or on silent mode. At the end of the memorial, you are all welcome to join the family in our guest lounge to remember and chat about your own experiences with Shirley. Shirley will be buried later today in a private ceremony with just her close family present. Could you all please now stand for the Lord's Prayer? Shirley often mentioned that she'd like this prayer read at her funeral, and please join me if you wish. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you everyone. Please be seated. Today, we are not just marking the passing of Shirley, but also remembering that she was amongst us. Her immediate family are all here today and would love to share with you their memories and stories of growing up around a loving, warm and doting mother and grandmother. We are remembering the legacy of love that she has left behind. In many ways, Mary's life was one of service, not just to her family, but also to the church. Mary was a well-known collaborator at the Midland Church of Christ, where she spent countless hours assisting the underprivileged. While remembering Shirley today, we cannot help but remember a significant other person in her life, her husband of many years, Frank. To share some of their assembled stories, I'd now like to invite Shirley's son Martin to come forward. Eulogy, read by Martin. Thank you everyone for being here to remember and honour Mum. She was born Shirley Ann Wilson on the 24th of January 1930 to her parents Cecil and Pearl Wilson. At the time they were living in Northam, where her dad fancied himself as a prospector. She grew up as an only child in that remote community, and according to her mum Pearl, she was one of those kids that hated learning but loved to be involved in helping others. When the railway was built from Perth, she became occupied with helping the hundreds of European migrants who had come to Australia for a better life but found themselves in Northam and displaced. She would often run down the road to school, wave to Mum, and never get there. She would escape to the camp and spend her time looking after little babies and playing with the migrant children. In her teens, she would help them with their parcels as they loaded them onto the train to try their luck in Perth. That was where she met my dad, Frank. He was the station master and he'd seen her many times at the station. Their romance developed quite speedily and they married when they were both just 18. Mum never really had a full-time job because she spent so much time working with the migrants. I was born in 1955, several years after they'd given up thinking that they were ever going to have children. I too am an only child, and Mum always told me that was because she loved me so much she couldn't think of sharing me with another child. Dad said it was because she was always so tired from helping others that she never had the time for more kids. Either way, I grew up showered with loads of love from both of them. When I was 10, we moved to a little property in Midland where Dad was employed as an engine driver. A very well-respected job, but it took him away for days at a time. So Mum would send me off to school and go straight to that little church up the road and spend time with the pastor, planning the food parcels and clothing donations to give to the poor. I often came home from school to a lounge room with no space to sit. Instead, it was strewn with items to go into the parcels. Somehow, she always managed to clean up and organise the chaos just before Dad got home. And when he did get home, she would be calmly sitting, crocheting baby blankets with dinner on the stove. Sadly, the tough life of the railways took its toll on Dad, and he passed away in April 1970. By then, I was old enough, at the ripe old age of 15, to be the man of the house. Mum coped well with Dad's passing through the years, but often she would say she hoped that I would find someone who was the love of my life, just as Dad had been. She admitted that she'd missed him terribly, and she'd thrown herself into more charity work to keep busy. When I did find the love of my life, Karen, Mum was overjoyed and welcomed her into the house. She even immersed Karen into the charity work that she did, which was a huge compliment because that work was almost her whole world. We had our 2 boys in quick succession, and Mum became the most attentive and loving nana a child could wish for. There was never any doubt that she had wide enough arms and love enough to embrace them both. And she revelled in cooking amazing dishes for them, which I reckon she was making up for all the times I just got the basics when she was always so busy. The boys adored her, and she would often tell them stories from her days in the camps at Northam. Mum found, as she got into her 80s, that her body simply couldn't function enough for her to stay on her own in the house. We offered to have her live with us, but she wanted to go into a nursing home. She thought that it would be pretty social there, and that she'd be able to create employment for other young people. So we found her a lovely home at the Orwell Aged Care Facility. She loved it there, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank them for their wonderful help with Mum, especially Carmen, who's here today. Carmen, Mum loved you. Thank you for being her friend, her confidant, and her carer. You helped her maintain as much dignity as possible during her years there. The last time we were all together as a family was just a couple of weeks ago at Mum's 91st birthday. She was in good spirits, but definitely showing signs of slowing down. She also talked quite a bit about Dad that day. We were glad to have visited her and wondered that day if we would ever have much longer with her. She eventually gave up her enthusiasm, and we had the sad news on the 2nd of February that Mum had said a cheery goodnight to everybody and subsequently passed away during the night. I'm glad for the values and character traits that Mum passed on to me, and in turn I have tried to pass on to my boys. I hope she's with the love of her life again, and that she is at well-deserved peace. Thank you, Martin. You obviously have some wonderful memories of a life well lived. I'd now like to invite Richard, Shirley's grandson, to play one of Shirley's favourite tunes on his flute. Thank you, Richard. That was lovely. I hear she loved listening to you play. We are now going to listen to another favourite song of Shirley's while we look up at the screen and see some special photos that the family have assembled. Some wonderful memories there. We're now going to take some time to reflect on the relationship we had with Shirley and how she enhanced our lives over the years. The committal. Please stand now as we say our final goodbye to Shirley. Shirley, go forward from this world, knowing that you are loved beyond measure, that you will be missed more than words can say, that you will be remembered and cherished, and that love will never end. We will hold you close within us, and there you will remain to be with us throughout our lives until we meet again. And as we now hold our memory in our hearts and send you on your final journey, may you forever rest in peace with the certain knowledge that our love goes with you and you are in God's care.